Welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us. It's really good to see so many people taking part in this webinar today, which is hosted by ChamberFORCE and sponsored by Amazon. For those who don't know me, I'm Nicola Smith. I'm Head of Engagement at the Highland RFCA, Reserves Forces and Cadets Association. And these are my colleagues Ray Watt and Roy McClellan, who work with me on the employer engagement front. Ray is also serving reservists, so we had a Q&A about reservists later. Ask him and not me, because I won't know the answers. Just to give you a little background on ChamberFORCE, who are behind this initiative. ChamberFORCE was created a few years ago with 4 key chambers of commerce, those being Fife, Dunbartonshire, we've seen Damon today, Dundee and Angus, and I see Alison is there, and Moray, and I see Sarah is with us. So thank you, Chambers, for joining us. And these 4 chambers have combined with military personnel. They each have a military buddy, as it were, to try and help them through the maze of military speak, transition, transferable skills, and also, working the other way, the military get a chance to deliver some training, teamwork, leadership skills to chamber members. So that's what ChamberFORCE is all about. I'm absolutely delighted to be doing this today. Amazon are our sponsors of this programme. They are Gold Employer Recognition Scheme award holders. Sadly, they can't be with us today. But Amazon have some great examples of best practice when it comes to recruiting and working with ex-forces personnel, and we'll be happy to share some of that with you later via a link once we put it all together, but they've got some really good top tips about how they do it. So, today's event is looking at the skills, the experiences and qualifications of those who have served in the armed forces, whether it's the Royal Navy, the Army or the Royal Air Force. These men and women are expertly trained across a whole range of disciplines and can bring these skills into your workplace. You may not think so at first, but we hope as we go along, you'll hear about the kind of things that they do that might be very different to your perception of the military, and you'll see how this fits into your workplace and the skills that you look for. For example, logistics, planning, communications, first aid, medical, engineering, construction, project management, and so on and so on. These are all military skills that are useful in civilian workplaces. The question is really, are you familiar with military qualifications and how can you translate them into something that you understand? Now, it is a different language. There's civvy speak and there's military speak. Some of us speak both, most of us speak one or the other. So we're going to try and disentangle that for you a little bit today. One example is that all military personnel, if you're going to interview a military person, they would have done CLM training. Now, you might think, so what? I don't even know what that is. That means command, leadership, and management. And this is something that they work through at various degrees throughout their career. And it filters into qualifications approved by the Chartered Institute of Managers. So that's just one example of something that you might look at on a CV and think, don't know what that is. But in fact, it's going to be absolutely perfect fitting into your organisation. So how can we understand all of this stuff? Well, the person who's going to tell us how is Nicola Smith, who's with us today. I'm delighted to say she's got this task. Nicola works for the Scottish Credit and Qualifications Framework, SCQF, and they're Scotland's lifelong learning framework. And she's going to talk us through the maze of translations of different qualifications and where they sit on the 2 scales. So just a wee bit about Nicola. I'm just going to read from your bio, Nicola. Sorry, I haven't memorised it yet, but Nicola is the Employer Engagement Lead at the SCQF Partnership. Her job is to help employers understand the wide range of qualifications available in schools, colleges, universities, the workplace and the community, and how to benchmark job roles to the SCQF. She's working with the MOD and Skills Development Scotland to help veterans and service leavers recognise the valuable range of skills and experience gained during service and how to translate these qualifications for Scottish employers. So what she's going to do is demonstrate a tool which she has created in partnership with the MOD and give you an opportunity to see the types of qualifications being taken and the general meta skills developed during service. Finally, she's going to show you how you can benchmark your roles and attract a wider pool of talent. I hope I got all of that right. I'm going to hand over to Nicola and then we'll have lots of Q&A time, hopefully, as we go along as well. Nicola, over to you.
Thank you so much, Michelle. That was absolutely perfect. I was going to start by introducing myself, but I don't need to because you've done an amazing job. So as Michelle said, I am the Employer Engagement Lead at the SCQF. Now, if you've not heard of the SCQF, don't worry. I spend my life talking and helping employers like yourselves understand Scotland's qualifications landscape. Things have changed significantly in Scotland over the last 10, 20 years, and the types of qualifications available in our schools, but also in our community and across our lifelong learning have changed significantly. But the one thing that stayed constant is the SCQF, which underpins it all. So when we're talking about military qualifications tend to sit on a different framework. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to help you understand, first of all, the SCQF, how it relates to the framework that the military qualifications are on, and how you can then understand through using that equivalence. And as Michelle said, I'm going to show you a tool that we've created that was created for veterans, service leavers, reservists, anyone who is working or has worked in the armed forces, to help them translate their qualifications into a language that will be understood by Scottish employers, into the language of the SCQF, and also, sorry, just admitting someone, and also what sort of skills have people developed while they've taken on this role in the armed services. Then the next question is, well, how do I know what sort of SCQF level I need in the first place? So we'll talk about that, and we'll talk about how you can make sure that you're recruiting people at the right level with the right skills for your job role. So what I'm going to do today is just a wee note from Michelle, just to say you've probably clicked something as you came in to say that this is being recorded. If anybody is uncomfortable with that, please feel free, you can turn your camera off. But it is lovely to see faces, so if everyone turns their camera off, I'll be very sad. So it's nice to see those faces and get reactions. So if you can and you're happy, please keep them on, that would be great for me. So, and that's all right, you don't need to be a veteran, just got an eye on the chat here. Today we are talking not from a veteran or service person point of view, we're talking from an employer point of view. I'm putting my two hats on, my hat that's worked with the MOD to help people who are in or leaving service, and my employer support hat. We're putting the two of them together, and I'll take you through the tool and use it to show you what types of qualifications you can take in service, what sorts of things can you expect people to be learning about and come to. It's amazing the range of qualifications that people take when they are in service. Unfortunately, at the moment, the problem that we have is working with Ministry of Defence, they're not at the moment recording things as well as they could. So the onus is on the service person at the moment to know and understand and recognise the qualifications they have. And this is something that we're trying to address with them, but the tool helps them to see which qualifications they have probably taken. It will help spark their memory. It depends, some people have very good records, some people not so much, it depends on circumstances, but we're looking to make that better. We'll also look at these meta skills. As Skills Development Scotland described those transferable skills that people have. They're really, really important. Things that in the past would have been called soft skills, which is a phrase that I hate because these are vital skills that you need to get on in any job role and in life as well. So we'll show you some of those. So let's get started. And the first thing I really need to do is show you what is the SCQF in the first place. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you on a little guided tour of our website. And on our website, everything that you need will be in this section, support for employers, and we can pop links in the chat for you so you can have those to look at yourselves. But everything you need is in this section, and we're going to start with understanding qualifications. We've got lots of little videos on the website, so please, at your leisure, feel free to come and have a little look. But we're going to start today, the little black bars in the way, there we go. Make this bigger. Just organize my screen. Okay, so The SCQF was created back in 2001, 22 years ago. People from across education got together, people involved in education in schools, colleges, universities, but also workplace, community learning, and private learning providers got together and said, we need something that brings all of these qualifications that we are doing together in the one place. For two very particular reasons. One, it was felt that in this age of having information at our fingertips, that actually those knowledge-based qualifications that have been seen as the gold standard, the academic route, may become less important, and your skills-based qualifications may be becoming more important. Unfortunately, those skills-based qualifications has often been seen as less important in the past, so we wanted to make sure that no matter what type of qualification it is, whether it's an apprenticeship, an SVQ, a higher, for example, your higher sits at SCQF level 6. However, if you have a modern apprenticeship or an SVQ or any other qualification at SCQF level 6, they are the same level of difficulty. We have one set of benchmarks that underpins all of these different qualifications, anything from art to zoology. So you can be assured that anything that sits at the same SCQF level is the same level of difficulty. The other reason was to allow people to move in between the different pathways. And this is also where it helps with military qualifications. Using the SCQF to then understand where these military qualifications sit in terms of level of difficulty will allow you to then see if you have the right person for your job role, if they have the right skills, technical skills, or other skills that you need for your job role. So just to get you orientated to the SCQF, I'm going to follow the academic path because it's the one that everyone knows best. I'm not doing that because it is in any way superior to anything else. So the higher sits at SCQF level 6. It's not changed its name since 1883, I think it is. So we know where we stand with that one. Going up the way, level 7 is where you would find advanced higher, which is the same as your first year at college or an HNC, or your first year at university. They are at the same level. And again, that allows for this movement between different pathways. Level 8, HND, second year at college or university. Level 9 is an ordinary degree. 10 would be honours, 11 a master's, up to 12 a doctorate. So that lets you see moving up the way from a higher. I'm going to show you a different picture in a minute to help us understand going down the way, because we're going to look back in time and relate it to the things that we did when we were at school. But before we go, my favourite statistic about the SCQF is that of all the qualifications we have at SCQF level 6, only 7% of them are hires. So if you are very narrow about the qualifications you're asking for, you're only asking for hires, then you could be missing out on a whole range of people with a lot of different qualifications at the same level of difficulty that might be more relevant. And you could be missing out, as we're discussing today, on the military talent with really important skills at that level. So what we suggest people do at the SCQF, the SCQF is very well understood in education terms. It's not so well understood in the world of the workplace. So we're trying to change the language around qualifications, but also how people talk about their skills and experience as well. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. So we're trying to encourage people to use SCQF levels to think about themselves in terms of their qualifications and their skills and experience. And we're encouraging employers to use SCQF levels rather than specific qualifications when they are recruiting. So just to note, along with this range of mainstream qualifications, because we have one set of benchmarks that underpins all of this, we can also bring in a whole range of other qualifications. We have about 11,500 qualifications at any given time on the SCQF, and about 1,000 of them are workplace learning, community learning. We've got youth awards, we've got helping adults into back into the workplace who've been out for a variety of reasons. We've got private learning providers, and we're significantly changing what's going on in our schools as well. So I said we would orientate ourselves to the lower half by looking at this resource here. We call it old versus new because that's exactly what it does. So back, we'll pick up again SCQF level 6, which is where our higher sits. Looking down, SCQF level 5 is where, if you've got young people at school, you recognise National 5 or Nat 5 as it usually gets called. Now your National 5 is called that because it's at SCQF level 5, as are all these qualifications coming down, all the way down to 1. So a Nat 5 at SCQF level 5 is the same level of difficulty as a standard grade credit, a 1 or 2 at standard grade, or if you're as old as I am, I was just on the cusp in between an upper pass at old grade. National 4 sits at SCQF level 4, same level of difficulty as a standard grade general or a lower pass at old grade. And the same National 3 would be a standard grade foundation. So that just helps you orientate yourself to the SCQF. This is what these levels mean. There's a lot of changes happening within education. Some of you may be involved in that, and also the skills agenda. What Scotland as a country wants to move to is using the language of SCQF levels rather than these specific qualification names. They're now suggesting SCQF levels should be upfront, the first thing that you have when you're talking about a qualification. So it will be an SCQF 6 higher in chemistry, for example. So the national language is changing, and we're just trying to help people catch up. So how does this then relate to military qualifications? So the next thing I'm going to show you is our Qualifications Can Cross Boundaries leaflet. This is a little bit of a juggling act here between trying to get as much on the screen as possible, but letting you actually see it at the same time. So apologies for the small print, but it's something you can come back and see later on. So on the right-hand side here, we have the SCQF and all our different levels and the typical mainstream qualifications you find at those levels. On these wee black bars are really, there we go, pop it up the top there. Beside it, we have the Republic of Ireland, who have everything on the one framework too. But the other columns are the slightly more confusing situation that exists in England, Wales and Northern Ireland. It's not as simple as one for each country, it's a little bit more complicated, but to make it simple, they all do match up with each other. So we can just look at one main framework. And this yellow one is where you will find most of the qualifications that are taken during service. So you'll see here at various levels, we have vocational, technical and professional qualifications. This is where your military qualifications come in. So also some of the qualifications that other people might be taking, you will sometimes see people coming to you with something at a level 3. If it doesn't say SCQF level 3, then it's probably on the RQF. And what you can do then is map straight across to the SCQF. So literally it's a case of taking a ruler and seeing how it maps across to ours. So just to get you a wee bit of an idea on some qualifications you will have heard of, and some of you, if you've been in the English system, will know them. GCSEs sit exactly the same as our old O grades. The upper passes are at level 2, they map across to SCQF level 5, just like the O grade did. And the GCSEs at lower grades map across to a level 4, just like the O grade. AS and A levels map across to a level 6, which some people find quite strange. Sometimes they think A levels should be up more into the 7, but actually the map across, you get very good results, then you're eking into the 7. So what this allows you to do is, if you are looking to employ people who have or are serving in the military, then their qualifications will be on this. You can ask them to tell you what level their qualification is at. It will be on their certificate. And then you can map that straight from here across to the SCQF. And that allows you then to compare that level of difficulty with qualifications that you maybe know and understand a little more intuitively. So it's a fairly simple process just to allow you to do that. Now, Michelle mentioned a huge range of different areas that people in service will cover. I work quite a lot with the NHS as well, and it's quite interesting. They have the same issue that people, when they think of the NHS, they think of all the clinical roles. They don't think of all the service roles that underpin everything that goes on. There's a lot of estates management, there's admin roles, there's HR, there's cleaning, there's engineers that keep all the buildings going. There's all sorts of different job roles that are classed as support roles. And it's the same in the military. There are a huge range of support roles, a huge range of different areas that people can be working in. So what we'll do now, before I move on from talking about the SCQF and qualifications, does anybody have any questions before we go and have a look at this tool? No, I'm seeing head shaking. That's fantastic. Excellent. Okay, so that, as you can see, to be able to understand the military qualifications, you need to understand the SCQF. So that's why I've given you a little bit of an overview there of what it is and help you orientate yourself and how you can map across between one and the other. However, we have created a tool that does that for you, which is really helpful. So this time we're in support, but we're going into support for individuals and our support for veterans page. Now it says veterans on that link, but actually when this comes up, purely because we couldn't fit that in the tiny little space if we were to put support for veterans, military and ex-military personnel. That includes anyone who has served, is currently serving, is a reservist, anyone who is involved at all with working in the military. So we've created a tool with Skills Development Scotland and the Ministry of Defence, and it's part of Skills Development Scotland's My World of Work website. If you want to hear me describing it again after today, we have a walkthrough here that I've recorded on our website. But let's go straight to the tool because you've got me here to take you through it now. Now, we created this tool for the people who are looking for jobs. But because I also support employers, I thought this is actually a really useful tool to allow employers to see the huge range of not just qualifications, but also skills that people will be coming to you from the military with, and why you want to employ people with this huge range of skills. So the first part is you put in any job roles that you have. Now in the Army, people tend to think of your typical infantry soldiers. There are, however, if I type in Army, you'll see a range of different things. So we have different ranks, and we also have different what are called cap badges. And cap badges are the different sections of the Army. So for example, let's come down and see we've got Royal Logistics Corps, who are involved in a whole range of different logistical things, and that also includes not just getting people and things to where they should be. It involves catering, it involves driving, and a whole range of different things within that. We have Royal Engineers. There are a lot of engineering roles, and this is just going through the Army. The RAF and the Navy have exactly the same types of roles within their services as well, and they are all contained within here. Intelligence Corps, so you're looking at strategic planning, which also comes into logistics as well, and a whole range of different things here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose, we'll come down, and where is my warrant officer? So I'm going to choose the rank of warrant officer, and I am going to choose, actually, we'll just go, I'm going to choose the Royal Electrical and Mechanical Engineers, okay, as my 2 job roles. And then we'll take you through to the next section. Now, This is where things get a wee bit more interesting for you. This has pre-filtered the range of qualifications that might have been taken based on those two job roles. So if you've got somebody that you're looking at to employ, you could put in those specific roles that they have, and you can see what types of qualification they'll have taken. But what I'm going to do is, as you can see, there's only 65 here. For purposes of today, what I'd like to do is take you through the list and show you all 575 different distinct qualifications that I have distilled down from the qualifications taken across all different services. So when you come in for basic training, if you don't already have National 5s, GCSEs in maths and English, part of your basic training will be to bring you up to at least SCQF level 4 or level 1 on the RQF in those different disciplines. So I know a lot of people are looking for basic levels of numeracy and literacy. That is something that you will get through basic training. So you'll either do a level 1, which is SCQF 4, or level 2, which is SCQF 5, Nat 4, Nat 5, in English and maths. A lot of people will also do ICT depending on their job role. So you know that anyone coming from the military has a very good basic understanding at that level. You don't need to ask for the qualifications because it's part of their basic training. If they don't have it before they come in, it's done when you're there. Also, an interesting thing is that first aid wise, everyone who goes through basic training will actually have a level of first aid knowledge that's higher than an NHS first responder, which can also be very useful in a range of workplaces. Everyone does it as standard as part of basic training. This is where it can be a little bit difficult because in the military, people will talk about the courses that they did in terms of, it was basic training, it was the GNCO course, particular ranks as you reach them, or the signallers course. What we are encouraging the military to do is now properly mark down exactly the names of the qualifications that are done. But they will have the certificates from these qualifications, and on those certificates will be a level, and you can map them across to the SCQF. Now, Michelle gave you an idea of some of the range of different qualifications that could be taken. A lot of health and first aid. Leadership and management is very interesting. So as you move up the ranks within all three services, you will take a new leadership and management qualification that goes up each time you change rank. We're doing at the moment, the next piece of work I'm going on to is a process of matching rank straight to SCQF level. And it's going to be based on, firstly, these leadership and management courses that we have. And also it's going to be based on a tool that we have that I'm going to show you in a little minute that allows you to see what skills someone with qualifications at each level will have that are useful in the workplace. So that will be coming soon, and I can let you all know when that happens. So your junior ranks will be looking at qualifications at SCQF level. So RQF2 is level 5 or level 6 here with that one. And as you move up, you go through to really quite high level. If we're talking level 7s, that maps across to SCQF level 11, which is a master's degree. So you're talking some very, very advanced leadership and management training. And that comes in, we're not talking up at Field Marshal level, we're actually talking at a lower level than you might expect. So really, really useful. Also, there will be a lot of coaching and mentoring that comes along with those because you're not just leading, you're also coaching and mentoring those within your command. As you might expect, there are a lot of engineering and technical roles, huge number of those, and lots of qualifications at all different levels. We have qualifications on here that go from SCQF level 4 all the way up to, actually there are some doctorates at level 12 and everything in between. We have logistics, a whole range of logistics. warehousing, storage, driving, hospitality and catering. An army marches on its stomach. You need to make sure that you are feeding them well and safely. As you can imagine, a whole range of different things. You've also, though, got your business management, administration, human resources, medical, dental, pharmacy, a whole range of different things. And these are just the subheadings that you can see, very, very many of them. A lot of adventurous outdoor as well, as you can imagine. But also animal care, music, huge range of things that you might not expect. So what I'm going to do is, just to take us through to the next stage, is I am going to go back down to the 65 because, quite frankly, 575 is a lot. So I will choose mathematics at level 1. Let's do ICT at level 2. And we'll have a leadership and management course, say at level 4, just so we get a spread. The other way you can do this is put in a keyword. You can see I've done this one before, and we'll bring in, so you will find some qualifications that are recognisable, like HNDs, HNCs and apprenticeships as well. But the apprenticeships, you need to know what level it's sitting at. Okay, so I have now moved on to this last piece of the puzzle here, and this gives you your results. Now, just for your own interest, this skills discovery tool isn't just for military, it's for all the civilian population as well, civilian job roles. So if you go in and you're interested in your own, you don't get that second qualifications page. It brings you straight to this page. And the idea behind this is to give you, initially at the moment, an understanding of what skills have I developed in my job roles that I can then take to a different job role and use. This is what Skills Development Scotland call meta skills, these really useful skills. Eventually, in my world of work, what they want to do is take the percentages that we have behind this to look at other job roles and give you ideas of other job roles that you would be good at based on your skills profile. That's not there yet. It is going to be coming within the next few years, and that'll be really, really useful. However, at the moment, what it allows people who are serving and yourselves as well to see what sort of skills have been developed during time in service. So it's split into 3 different sections. So we'll start off with self-management, and it'll just give you a wee bit of an idea of some of the fantastic skills that people could be bringing into your organisation. So let's look at adapting. So under each of these headings, there are a range of subheadings, and you'll get a range of different skills within those headings, and it allows service people to pick out what are the key skills they've developed so that they can use those to let employers know what they are good at. Just if something is low, it doesn't mean that they're not good at it. It just means that that's something that's not been particularly required within their job role. So these are based on the job roles that I chose at the beginning. So as you can see, adaptability, persevering, positive attitude, resilience, all things that you can expect from someone who has reached the rank of warrant officer in REME. So it depends on both your rank and your CAT badge and section you're working in. Let's look at initiative, for example. So again, I'm kind of choosing ones that I know definitely have some really high skills. Planning, implementing, managing, taking risks, self-esteem, all really quite high. They're not all high, I promise. I'm just picking out ones that seem to be high. We can look under social intelligence. We've got the same thing again, communicating, particularly verbal communication, working with technology, very important things that you can expect from someone working in that job role. Leading, again, that's going to be one. So delegating, making decisions, motivating others, all really important skills. And the last section is innovation. So Again, critical thinking is another good one. Problem solving, one that you would take out from their evaluating as well. And let's choose one more. Analysing, recalling, understanding. All very useful skills that you can expect from someone who has served in that area. The second part of this, which is obviously not in the civilian part as well, is then that comparison. We've done the mapping across for you. So someone who has a level 4 qualification, this maps across to an SCQF level 7. That's the level where an HNC, sorry, I forgot it's in here. And underneath, we've given you examples of what qualifications you might recognise more readily. So that is comparable in level of difficulty with an advanced higher, an HNC. That's your first year at university. Functional skills that a lot of people will be doing. As I said, everyone will have a basic understanding of ICT and, of maths and English, because they'll have at least done a level 1. And a level 1, which should be down here, maps across to SCQF 4, and level 2 maps across to a 5. And as you would expect it to, that HND that we recognise, because it's also one that we know well, maps across to SCQF level 8. So what that allows you to do is take qualifications that they might put on their CV, and we are encouraging, so as part of the transition out of service, we are encouraging service personnel to put down their qualifications with a comparable SCQF level beside it, so that you as employers can then take that information and map it across to understand the level of their qualification in terms of qualifications that you already know. Okay, so that then finishes us looking through the tool. Before I go on to the last question that I was going to talk about today, which was, how do I know what SCQF level I want to employ someone at in the first place? Before I go on to that, does anybody have any questions about the types of qualifications and skills that people serving in the military may have? No, fantastic. Stunned silence again. Excellent. Just to say one more thing before we go off this topic. When you're serving in the armed forces, you don't apply for promotion. Your people above you will see talent and they will earmark you for promotion. So they are not used to going through the process of applying for jobs, this whole concept of selling yourself to an employer, for want of a better phrase. So it can be very difficult for people in the military to put themselves in the position of bigging themselves up, telling you all about the things that they have done. So it might mean that you might have to coax it out a little bit more, and just be mindful of that when you're getting applications from people who are or have served in the military. The other thing that they're not used to is everything's done as a team when you're working in the armed forces. So when you're asking questions about their specific contribution, they will tend to talk in the language of we as opposed to I, because it's we as a team. So something, again, to be mindful of, just when you're looking at interviewing or reading applications, that is something that will talk more about we than I. It's just in the nature of anyone who has served. Okay, so the last...
Can I just interrupt you for a tiny second there, sorry.
Yes.
Well, you can probably see the three of us all sitting here like nodding dogs at that last bit that you just said, and I think we can't reinforce enough what you've just said about military personnel not being familiar with interview speak, not being familiar with selling themselves as an individual, not a team. I think that's a really, really important point for employers to take away from this, so thank you for flagging that one up.
No problem, and thank you for reiterating that as well. Very, very important. Sometimes you just have to look a little bit deeper and maybe ask a few more questions, because it's not something that comes naturally. It's not something they've had to do. And many people will have left school and gone straight into the armed forces. So it's not something, or from university to the armed forces, it's not something they've needed to do. Okay, the last thing I'm going to show you is, well, we've talked about SCQF levels and how to use those to recognise qualifications taken in the military. And what we suggest is that instead of using specific qualifications like degree or equivalent, people often use, or number of hires and equivalent, we suggest that in order to cast your net as wide as possible when you're recruiting, and also include people who have, for example, served in the military and have qualifications with different names. If they saw those specific qualifications, they would think, well, I can't apply for that. So you're excluding them. You're also excluding people who have done a range of qualifications in Scotland as well, which may have been more suited to the type of role that you're recruiting for. So they may have the exact type of skills that you need. I can give you an example. It's not a military example, but it's a civilian one, ScotRail, where we'd had a conversation with them a few years back, just before the pandemic. And then everything hit, so it all went quiet. In beginning of 2021, they were struggling to get people to apply for a particular job role. And they thought, right, remember the conversation, they put it out with an SCQF level rather than specific qualifications, and got a whole range of applications in that were actually far better suited and much better quality for that particular job role, because it was a very skills-based role. So if you're wanting to attract people from the military, young people for whom qualifications have changed significantly, and also a job role that's in a more skills-based, where academic qualifications wouldn't be really relevant, then you'll get much better return if you put it out with SCQF levels rather than specific qualifications. So how do you know what SCQF level to ask for? So we're going back to support for employers, employer guide and levelling tool. And I'm aware of time, so I'm going to quickly show you through the levelling tool. This tool essentially tells you at each SCQF level, what should somebody be able to do if they have a qualification or skills and experience at that level. So let's take the good old degree or equivalent. And again, apologies, this is trying to get as much on the page as possible, but you can come back and have a look in your own time. So I'm going to take SCQF level 9, which is an ordinary degree. To level a job role, it's a very simple process. First of all, think about what qualification were you going to ask for, jump in at that equivalent SCQF level. I then read the right-hand side and say, okay, which of these areas is most important to my job role? We'll concentrate on those ones. Doesn't have to fit every single one. More important to look at what's important in your job role. Then decide, does that describe the type of person that I need for this role? Have a look then over at the other side, responsibilities, tasks and duties. This will give you a flavour of what somebody with a qualification at SCQF level 9 should be able to do, or with skills and experience at that level. If that describes it, great. I always suggest like one level down and one level up, just to be absolutely sure. If you decide though that that is maybe too high a level, you can look down at level 8. And if you decide that that describes it better, check the one below again, always check one either side. But if it does, then you've already won a watch, because you're now open to qualifications at SCQF level 8, which includes HNDs, SVQs, apprenticeships at level 8, and the whole range of those military qualifications that we've talked about that might be at that level. We also encourage people to ask for skills and experience at that level, and we've created web pages out of these different pages, so you can link to them straight from your job adverts. And that helps people who've got skills and experience at different levels to recognise that that is where they sit and that they can apply for that job. So very simple process. So we run something called the SCQF Inclusive Recruiter Programme. So again, support for employers, inclusive recruiter, where if you're willing to training in your staff to recognise the wide range of qualifications that are out there and how you can understand and compare qualifications not just in Scotland, but your military qualifications, your qualifications from across the whole world. And we provide free training for anyone who needs it. You can then, we suggest, it's 4 things that we ask. Recognising the wide range of qualifications and how to compare them. Looking at benchmarking, levelling your job role to the SCQF that we just looked at. We then ask you to use SCQF levels in recruitment rather than specific qualifications. And lastly, to be open to skills and experience. So if anybody is interested in taking this further, I'll pop my email address in the chat, and please feel free to get in touch. In fact, you can get in touch with me straight from this page. Here, we can chat further about how to attract people from military backgrounds. And we can talk also about how to attract people more widely for your job roles. So this is the type of wording we suggest. This role would suit someone working at SCQF level 6, and you can link to a web page that tells you about this. The last thing I'll say just before we finish up and I have any questions is that I have sent some information across to the people who've organised today, so they'll send it out, and along with a leaflet about the support we can provide when you're trying to attract military talent. I'll also send a leaflet from the Careers Transition Partnership. So the Careers Transition Partnership, CTP, they support anyone who is transitioning out of the military to move into civilian roles. They help them with these issues that we've talked about, that writing CVs and application forms is not a normal and comfortable process, how to deal with interviews, etc. They also have a range of employers that they work with. And you can, if you link up with CTP, you can have your job roles advertised on their internal sites. You have access to employment fairs and a whole range of different other things that they can support you with. So the leaflet that is attached that you'll get later on will allow you to see how to link up with CTP, and it'll show you what they can offer. It's a really useful first step if you're wanting to recruit military personnel. I will stop talking now and I will stop sharing. That's been a lot of information all in the one morning. Thank you so much for bearing with me. Does anybody have any questions? I'm just having a wee look in the chat.
I'm just going to jump in again then, and while people are thinking about their questions and someone's hands going up. That was absolutely fascinating, I have to say. I learned so much from that. I was just going to ask about cadets, but I'm going to let Nigel ask his question first, and I'll jump back in later on.
Fantastic. So I'm just, before you do, or I can't listen and type at the same time. So there you go. I've put my email in the chat there for you. Fire away, whoever it was that had a question. Nigel.
I've set up an academy, a film editing academy, and the reason I set it up is that I have an invisible mental health disability, and I actually used to, believe it or not, I used to work in the military in the Ministry of Defence in London, and I'd love to possibly work and set up possibly a project which may lead to a qualification with military personnel and creative filmmaking, editing sort of thing. And I didn't know who I'd need to approach to do that sort of thing.
That's a really interesting one. Michelle, would you know who the best person to talk to about that would be?
No is the short answer, so thank you for throwing that one at me.
Sorry, Michelle.
If no one else has a better idea, what to do, Nigel, is you'll get my email address at the end of this, and if you fire that over to me in writing so I can have a proper think about it, and I'll certainly see if I can come up with anyone who might be able to support. I'll put my email in the chat as well, and we'll see if we can come up with an answer for that one.
I'll have a wee think as well, because probably somewhere in the back of my mind there will be someone I've spoken to at an event. That's a really interesting one. Best of luck with that project. That sounds really, really interesting.
We already teach all around UK with people like the BBC, ITV, Netflix, and the reason I set it up is I found that making films was a good way to help with my mental health. So yeah, and obviously people from the military may come out with PTSD and certain conditions, and I think making films is a good way to express themselves.
I'm wondering if actually the personnel recovery unit might be. So the personnel recovery unit, if you're not familiar with it, is the unit that supports people transitioning out of the army for medical reasons. So they could be dealing with a whole range of physical or emotional trauma. And that could be a really useful thing to add. Now, the person that we worked with to get the percentages behind this tool used to work for the personnel recovery unit, but I can get in touch with her. Nigel, can you take down my email address and just drop me a wee email? And I'll see
I can do that, or I can put my email in. So
that works just as well, yes.
That's great. So jump in, Nigel, as well. Do keep in touch, Nigel. So I'm Damon Scott, I think I mentioned, from Dunbartonshire Chamber, but it's the sort of thing that ChamberFORCE, you know, we're looking at ways to continue this, and there are funding pots around, and that's the sort of thing that might well fit into, you know, creating different academies for as part of what we do. So you know, keep in touch with us, and you know, we'll make sure you get our email addresses, and there may be other links actually through the chamber for what you're doing in terms of I think you were on another session recently as well, SDS, I think. So yeah. I thought there's maybe some links with chambers of commerce there as well. So yeah, keep in touch with us if you could, and I'm sure there's some dots to join and maybe some opportunities for collaboration there.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Also, if you're interested in having that qualification credit rated and placed in the SCQF, then if you have a look again, or you can, I'll drop you an email.
I'm the only certified trainer in Scotland, so that's quite a good one, really. So yeah.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah, we can have a chat about that. Really interesting. Best of luck with that. That sounds really good. Does anybody have any other questions?
Hi Nicola, it's Ray here. Just a sort of quick one. Is this sort of presentation that you do, or that you're doing just now, which is really valuable, I think, to people coming out of service, is that delivered as part of the career transition workshop now with CTP?
Yes, so part of their workshops now will be that awareness of the SCQF and how to use the tool and map their qualifications to the SCQF. So what we need to do is we need to make that last link, which encourages many employers to use SCQF levels rather than specific qualifications, so that those coming out of service or a reservist know what types of jobs they can apply for.
And also, could this be delivered at unit level for reserve forces?
Absolutely, yep, absolutely. I believe I believe my colleague, because I was away on holiday, did a session for Lowland RFCA, so there's not an issue with maybe coming up and doing that for yours as well.
Great, thank you.
Excellent. I'm just trying to see, there was a question. Martin, excellent question. So the question is, why are public service jobs, NHS, local authority applications not translating, oh, it jumped up, sorry, not translating military skills in an autofill fashion from one SCQF skills clarity record onto online civilian application? And you've got no mic, so you can't answer. That is a really useful, interesting question. Now, the NHS have recognised the huge range of talent, both clinical and support, that comes out of the military. And they have set up a specific unit in order to make sure they can get that pipeline working. And that's the type of thing that they're working on, these kind of automatic understandings of anyone who's involved in. We've got a long way to go. We do have a long way to go, but that is definitely something that's happening in the NHS. Local authorities they're always tricky to work with. I'm getting myself managing to get into a few local authorities, getting them, but They're very big bodies and they take a long time to change. So we are working as best we can with them. And it's changing hearts and minds of we've always done things this way, using these specific qualifications. We need to really change that language we're using and how we think about things. So it's coming, it is coming, but it's going to be a slow road sometimes. But the more help that if you can all spread the word to people that you know involved in HR, involved in employing, and not just employing, recruiting, but also workforce development as well, can be very, very useful in workforce development terms to really understand what your staff are capable of doing.
Nicola, I have another question. Questions from you now. Another part of the work that we do along with the reservists and the veterans is with cadets. And obviously the cadets are coming out of the cadet programme with a lot of the meta skills that you mentioned. So this would be a good website for young people as well to work through?
Absolutely. So on our website, we've got a section for people who are leaving school, so post 16, I'm trying to remember. In that support for individuals section, there's a lot of support for young people, but also your cadets will have developed a range of skills that will be similar to those who are serving full time. So it could be very useful for them to see what types of skills they may have created themselves. We also have something which we is called My Skills, My Future. And it's a process of, we call it RPL in Scotland, recognition of prior learning. And this might be something that you might be interested in doing with your cadets. We would train up the people who work with the cadets in how to use this programme called My Skills, My Future. And what it does is it looks beyond your qualifications to part-time jobs, volunteering, anything that you get involved in outside of your school core qualifications. And it looks at what sort of skills have I developed through those that I can then tell employers about. So it's a really useful thing that actually might be quite good. So we run trainings on it a few times a year. So there'll be more, and just let me know if you're interested and I can find out a bit more about it for you.
That's great. I don't think we've got any. Oh, hang on. There's one just come in there. I think. So just for everyone to know, if you're an employer, there's a HRFCA contact there. And Nicola, I'm just aware of time. Sort of at the moment, we're coming up to the end. I think I've got at least sort of another 20 minutes that we could have a chat about. And probably sharing some of the examples that we've not had time for with the various stakeholders and partners here and employers as well. Because I'm just thinking there, and I've got, thinking of members here, Golden Jubilee Hotel and Hospital, are Gold Award holders of the ERS Awards. And again, that's something else we should just send out information about, which is the sort of feeds into all of this in terms of the Armed Forces Covenant, which we must push on the back of this, as well as the ERS Employment Recognition Awards. And I was just thinking in our area, we've got West Dunbartonshire Council, a Gold Award holder. So that's probably a good in with some of the local authorities to push the Gold Award holders to get behind sort of automating the qualifications. So there's lots of dots to join and loads of fantastic examples. We know we've got a health and safety company. We've got a drone pilot actually linking in with the filming, who's ex-forces, for instance. So I think to sort of just sum up, this is a fantastic tool with amazing opportunities for for people to recognize the skills they can plug the gaps with, because everyone's really struggling with recruitment at the moment. So I don't know if that's a good summary. Nicola, if we want to thank you for your input while I'm at it.
Oh, thank you very much. Yes, that's a perfect summary. This is just the tip of the iceberg. Once you're involved, there's lots of different things that can help you. In fact, we could probably do a few more of these sessions with a range of other people that can support. But CTP are a good way to start, linking with ChamberFORCE, with Highlander FCA, very good places to start your journey. And please help spread that word amongst anybody that you know about the wealth of talent that we have coming out of our military. And yes, there are skills gap areas that are causing a lot of problems around the country, but there are also skills recognition gaps. And using the SCQF to help translate all these different qualifications, no matter where they're taken, can help you bridge that gap.
Fantastic.
Thank you, and Damon, thank you too. I think on behalf of everyone, I'd like to thank you first, Nicola, for the absolute wealth of information that's on that website. I know that we're itching to go and get logged in now and have a fiddle about with it and get more familiar with it, and that was extremely useful. I think we'll have a chat with our chamber members, ChamberFORCE members, about doing a follow-up session perhaps and getting further into this. Damon, thank you so much for hosting and putting together the admin on this, very much appreciated. And thank you to everyone who has logged in. I hope you've all found it useful. You've got lots of contact emails for me, for guys, for the chambers, and for Nicola. So please do come back with any questions, and we'll send you out all the leaflets and the other bits and pieces of information that are part of this event. So thank you very much, and Nicola, once again, thank you. It was really, really excellent. Thoroughly enjoyed that. Thank you.